G'day guys and welcome back to another One Piece deck profile. Today we're checking out Reiju. So Reiju's actually been seeing some nice tops in the OPO 6 meta, which is really great to see. A really fun deck to play. It's kind of like a Power Ranger style. You're going to use your trash a lot to revive some bigger characters. So you have your little ones and you morph into your bigger ones, which is quite nice, quite good. This deck has a pretty decent matchup into all things, but its worst matchup by far is Red Purple Luffy. Yes, yeah, it's a struggle against that deck. You can definitely win. You just have to change your playstyle quite a lot outside from the usual. And so this deck's probably going to drop off slightly going into EBO 1 as Red Purple Law sees some buffs and going to probably see some more play. But while we're in OPO 6, is definitely a really good option to run. Now, for those of you that don't know, Reiju is a blue-purple leader, starts you with 4 life, gives you 5,000 power, then your turn, once per turn, when a Don card on your field is returned to your Don deck, you get to draw 1 card. So as we know, purple loves to do some Don minusing, which this deck is really based around. It gets your little guys' effects, use a Don -1 to be able to bring out a bigger one, which, yeah, then gets you some nice draw power. So, yeah, always going to have a fairly decent hand size with Reiju. So, you got to just be careful of putting as well, depending if you have a blue matchup. So, just keep that in mind. And your Perona with your Gecko matchup can be a bit annoying because they can get some trashing going on in your hand. But for the most part, you don't mind doing that because you like to use your trash for your bigger characters. Alright, let's start with our Kingdom of Germa package. So, we're running a full playset of the stage card, which is what you're mulliganing for. If you don't see this in your opening hand, just, go again. Hopefully you do see it. It helps you a lot with this deck and its playstyle. It's definitely not a must need to be able to win, but it definitely makes it a lot easier. Makes your deck a lot more consistent. Next up, we're running a full playset of the Little Reiju, and we're running a full playset of the Big Reiju. So, Little Reiju costs you 2,000 body. The activate main, you can return 1 Don card, trash this card to play a Reiju, a bigger Reiju from your trash or your hand, which is this Reiju here. And then this Reiju's effect is on play if the number of Don cards on your field is equal to or less than your opponent's. You get to draw 2 cards if you have 5 or less cards. So, you play out the Little Reiju, you play this Reiju out, triggers that effect, then also triggers your lead effect. So you're drawing 3 cards. You can choose the order of the trigger of your effect, so make sure you trigger your character before your leader, so you are drawing the 3 cards. Because if you trigger the leader before the character, you'll go up to 6 cards, and then you won't be able to get the draw effect there. So make sure you get your timing right there. Next up, we're running 3 copies of the Little Niji, and then we're running 3 copies of the Big Niji. So, Little Niji is the same effect as the Little Reiju. Don -1, trash it to be able to play the Big Niji from trash or hand. The Big Niji is on play if your Don is equal to or less than your opponent. You can choose one of the following: KO one of your opponent's characters with a cost of 2 or less, or return one of your opponent's characters with a cost of 4 or less to their hand. So it can be good for some board control, especially kind of if you're going for game, you want to bounce back some blockers, a lot of 4-cost blockers going on right now. And then next up, we are running a full playset of Little Ichiji and then a full playset of the Big Ichiji. Once again, the little one's the same effect as all the other little ones that we've seen. And then the Big Ichiji, the on play, same thing with the Don. If you're equal or less, you get to minus 1 of your opponent's characters by 2,000 power, and then he gains Rush. So typically, this is probably one you want to go more late game, especially into black. Late game Ichiji is nicer rather than early game, whereas you want to try and prioritize your Reiju in terms of your black early game. Rounding off the characters for our Germa 66 package, we're running 2 copies of Judge. I have run so many different versions of this deck. Most of them don't have Judge, but Judge is just good when you do see it. Like, sometimes it just feels like a win more, which is why I've ran a lot of builds without it. But sometimes it just helps you get out of sticky situations, especially going to like Gecko Moria helps quite a bit. Is a card that doesn't require you to be at less Don to trigger the effect. So it is good into the red-purple law kind of thing. So the effect here is on play Don -1. You may trash 2 cards from your hand, then play up to 4 Germa 66 type characters with different names with 4,000 power or less from your trash. So you can play out all the little ones basically, and then be able to play out the bigger ones with their effects. And the last two cards of this package, we're just running 2 copies of the Searcher, which is a 1 cost, activate mainly the top 5 cards. You're 1 card with Gurma in its type other than this card, and then you place the rest at the bottom of your deck in any order. Now, a lot of builds are running more of this. I've been okay with 2. Sometimes I do feel like I want an extra copy in there, but you'll see kind of why we're cutting this for some other tech cards. Next up, let's talk about our 2K counters. First of all, we're running just 3 copies of Kai, which is also a little bit unusual for a Reiju. Usually you want to run 4 copies. So Kai is pretty good. Outside of being a 2K counter, on play you can draw 2 and trash 2, so it can help you fix some bricky hands, get some of your bigger characters in the trash. Next up, we are running 4 copies of Sora. This is actually also another Gurma Kingdom type card. So on play you can trash a card from your hand. Then if the number of Don on your field is equal to or less than your opponent's, you can add 1 Vinsmoke family type character with a cost of with 4,000 power or less from trash to your hand. So basically it's a way to recycle your little versions of your Gurma 66 characters. And is also a searchable 2K counter off the stage and the event. And then last of our 2K counters, running a full playset of Miss Doublefinger. Miss Doublefinger is good for a few reasons. Outside of being a 2K counter, on play you can trash a card to ramp a Don, which can help you in like the red-purple law matchup. Help you get to your judge a bit quicker so you can swarm the board a bit quicker. But I like to run a full playset of this one just because it is a trigger that can be played. So you can Don -1 to play this, and then on play you can then trash to get that Don back. But sometimes just having that extra way to to reduce a Don is really good, especially in the mirror match. That's really good if you can play this out and then not trigger the on play effect, because it is a you may. So it just sets you 1 Don behind your opponent in the mirror match, which is nice. Next up, we are running 3 copies of Queen. Queen's pretty good in this build as a blocker with some nice stats, which is a little bit harder to remove in black, not as easy as your 4 cost blockers. But your on plays, you can Don -1, draw 2, trash 1. So once again, another way to get a little bit lower in terms of your Don, especially into the mirror match. Next tech card, we're running 2 copies of Pudding. Really good into those decks that like to have massive hands. Really good into Sakazuki as well, because they spend all game just molding their hand, finding the cards that they want with their leader ability. Chuck a Pudding down. All their hard work's gone to waste. Now into some tech cards you don't use this year in Reiju, which I've been finding pretty good. We're running 2 copies of Hell's Judgment. Just a nice defensive option for you. This one is a counter Don -1. Give up to 2 of your opponent's leaders or characters -3,000 power for the turn. You can essentially stop 2 swings with this 1 card, which is nice. It is once again another way to get lower in Don, which is good for your mirror match and your red-purple law match. The trigger is if your opponent has 6 or more Don cards in the field, your opponent returns 1 Don card from the field to their Don deck, which you're not really going to use. You mainly just can use it as the defensive option there. And the last 2 cards in the deck, we're running 2 copies of Blast Breath. Cost you 1, Don -1, buff something by 4,000 power during the battle. Once again, same reason with that Don minusing, really good into the mirror match and can help in some situations into the red-purple law matchup. Otherwise, just a really good card to help you survive a couple extra turns, especially when it comes to like playing out a judge or some other bigger characters that you just need an extra turn to survive, to be able to swing in with what you've got out there. Alright, there's the deck in all of its glory. Let us know what you think of it. Let us know what tweaks you make. You can just run a fairly standard build without the couple of tech cards down here, bumping up your copies of your Gurma 66 as well as your Nijis. But otherwise, yeah, this deck's pretty good, nice, consistent, pretty fun deck. Thank you guys for checking out the video. Stay beautiful, and we'll see you all in the next one.